Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 327. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Falcon Valley Group of Communities Digital News, Daniel from Fort Boxing News and the Inscriber. And after not being here for a while, uh, my brother from the Shy, um, head of media relations for Three Kings Boxing, Truth and Fact Sports Talk, aka Bo from Three Kings Boxing. What's going on, ladies and gents?
Glad to be here, man.
Nice to have some fresh talent. And we are all wearing our tartans tonight, one and all, ready to go.
Absolutely. We'll talk about the Tartan Tornado coming up. Right, talk about him shortly. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and website discussing all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, it will get talked about. If you want to find out all information about the show, the website is the place to go to. P4pboxingreport.com. Let me repeat that, P4pboxingreport.com. You check the top portion of the page. You'll find links to where to find us all over podcast realm, be it iTunes, be it Spotify, be it Anchor, anything and everywhere else between. We're just about everywhere at this point. Also, if you check the bottom portion of the page, you'll find links to where to find us all over social media. Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Instagram, links to where you can donate. Got a Cash Me, PayPal donation links. Let donation be the best nation. Given the fact that people filed their taxes last week, if you still got some, if you got some spare tax money, please shoot $1, $2, $5. I don't care how much. No, doesn't matter how big or small. Please. Do us a solid and shoot some coins to the Pound for Pound Box Report. Help the overall production of the show, particularly behind the scenes in terms of equipment and whatnot. And last but certainly not least, for those who are trying to get their fitness up for the summer, please check out my online coaching page. I am an online coach for Beachbody. You click that link and you check out all the programs. You check out Beachbody On Demands. Has programs for all suitable interests, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's HIIT style, cardio. For the ladies, they seem to like bar blend, Pacquiao, morning meltdown. Whether it's the old school P90X series, the Insanity Asylum, the 6 weeks of the work, which in my personal opinion is the hardest workout program there, or the boxing-based program, 10 rounds, which is a boxing-based program. 3 days of weightlifting, 3 days of cardio, 2 days of weightlifting. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in a 2-week free trial, Beachbody On Demand throughout the year offers a 2-week trial where you'll get access to all programs on Beachbody On Demand for free. Please check out the coaching page on Pound for Pound Box Report website. And if you want to email us, you can hit us up at P4pboxingreport at P4pboxingreport.com. Let's get to the fights. It's going to be a short show this week. Start with the big fight. It took place with all the attention being paid to Fury, Joshua, Wilder, and we'll talk about that in our news segment. That took the air out, a lot of the air out of the room of this fight between Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez for the Undisputed title at 140 pounds. I'm going to include everybody into this discussion. I'm going to start, usually I start with ladies first, but since Bo, it's been a long time since he's been on, and I don't know how long he's going to be on because he got a special project that he's working on behind the scenes. When we talked about this fight last week, we basically said was as a 50-50 almost, 50-50, 60-40, either way. After getting off to a good start early, Taylor, Ramirez started to come on 3, 4, 5, but the tone and the tenor of the fight changed in round 6, where Taylor got off with the left hand, the power left hand, put him down once in round 6 and round 7. In my opinion, he started to take some control. It took some of the starch out of Ramirez over the second half of the fight. He used that momentum to carry throughout the second half. Taylor ended up winning by decision 114-112 on all 3 scorecards. I thought the fight was a little bit wider in terms of scoring, but in the end, Taylor, the right man, won. Taylor is now undisputed. Your reaction to the fight. What surprised you, if anything, about the performance of both men?
I think the biggest fight, that wasn't the biggest fight. Biggest fight for me was Chicago got a win yesterday.
Oh Lord,
Kenneth Sims Jr. baby beat that undefeated Dominican. Yes, finally we're in the positive. Oh, thank God! Because for the longest time I had to count on Jessica McCaskill, and these guys was killing me. But no, I think one of the biggest surprise for me in that fight was how Ramirez early on in the fight was able to dictate pace with his aggression and just his overall punching volume was able to dictate the early portion. But once Josh Kelly was able to catch his timing, Taylor, I'm sorry. Once Josh Kelly wish he could fight that good. Once Josh Taylor was able to catch his timing, once Josh Taylor was able to, kind of find his own rhythm, that's when you saw the fight kind of change. And you're right about one thing. I don't think the first knockdown, which in the 6th round, I don't think that's where we saw Ramirez start to fade, but definitely that second knockdown took a lot out of him. And I'll give Ramirez a lot of credit. He was in hell of a shape. And so was Taylor, by the way, because there was a couple punches that hurt him, but he was in great shape. But overall, for me, I think that what we saw from Josh Taylor was this is a guy that has good ring IQ. This is a guy that that understands. He judges everything in that ring and boxing: space, rhythm. He used all his advantages, feints. He was taking advantage of Ramirez missing, of Ramirez over aggression. I think sometimes he was being too methodical and trying to look for the counterpunch, especially when he had knocked Ramirez down. I thought he should have came out and jumped on him. And I was very, I didn't understand the instructions from his corner in the championship rounds. They should have had a little bit more urgency. Like they was counting on his boxing ability in the 2 knockdowns, thinking, okay, we got to fight. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is boxing, and you are not to over sell this, but this is boxing, and you're on foreign soil. You might not want to hope the judges can understand your style of boxing and give you the victory. And that's why the scoring cards, like you said, 114, 112, because he didn't put the gas pedal on in like rounds 11 and 12. But outside of that, though, man, you got to give it to Josh Taylor. I give Jose Ramirez a lot of credit. He fought. But I just think that, and me and 2K said this in the breakdown, Josh Taylor was just a better boxer. And I said if he keeps it a boxing match, because in the beginning, first half of the fight, he wasn't trying to, for some reason, he wasn't trying to keep it a boxing match. Once he kept it a boxing match, that's when you saw the difference. But, great fight. It was a fight that I felt ESPN did not give the proper amount of attention to because it was so busy trying to flood us with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. That this, in my honest opinion, was a missed opportunity. And shame on the British Boxing Board of Commission for not having this fight broadcast on their channel in the UK. Shame on them for that, man. That fight should have been where people could have seen their guy fight. So excellent fight. We got another undisputed champion. Now what's next? Hey man, sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned.
Indeed, we will talk about what's next as the discussion goes along. I mentioned Bo, head of media relations for Three Kings Boxing. I must say also that for those who do not know, I am a senior writer for Three Kings Boxing. Want to give a shout out to the crew over there. Shout out to Bo. Shout out to 2K, the HNIC over there, 3K, 3KB, Three Kings Boxing. Head writer Bakari, fellow senior writer Jarrell, aka Big Cool, editor Red. Shout out to the fellows over there. If you want to check out Three Kings Boxing, your source for the latest boxing information, please go to threekingsboxing.com. We're up on everything. We got our own pound for pound ratings. As a side note, Taylor's now number 4 in the pound for pound in the 3KB pound for pound rating above
it's
Terrence Crawford.
Top 10. It's not
top 10 ranking.
Top 10, yeah.
Top 10 rankings. You're right. Taylor right now he's number 4. Above Bud. That may be controversial to some, but there's reason behind that, solid reason behind that. So yeah, please check out threekingsboxing.com, your latest for boxing info, your latest and best source for boxing information. I'm going to you, Gail and Daniel. I'm gonna combo you on this one. Um, there seems to be, and we talked about this before we went live. There seems to be kind of a discrepancy of the fight. Um, Folks who felt Taylor won by wide margin. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, for those who felt the fight was closer, uh, there was some pushback. They felt that Taylor did a lot of holding, right? That Ramirez didn't get enough credit for what he did, and more importantly than that, a lot of criticism of referee Kenny Bayless, who they felt let Taylor hold a bit too long. Um, I will counter with that by saying that if you want to think that, then okay, maybe the knockdown in round 7, the second knockdown, that should have been a knockout because it can be argued that the count was long, right? And he stepped in Ramirez if for Ramirez to give him a little bit more break than he deserved. So that could have stopped the stoppage for Taylor. Your reaction to the fight, your reaction in terms of the disparity of opinion, the difference of opinion, and the job of Kenny Bayless, who while I was following the fight, I was watching the fight on work. I was following the Twitter timeline, boxing Twitter timeline, and he was receiving a lot of backlash for his performance in the ring as a ref.
I looked at that section of the fight again to see if I'd missed something. No, he approached both fighters, and he was going to break them up. And in the fighter meetings prior to the fight, apparently he had warned both of them that they were known for clinching, and he wasn't going to let that shit happen. So he approached them in the 7th, but he decided, you know what, they're breaking themselves up, I'm going to back off. And he held his hands up. Clearly, he's wearing black gloves. He holds his hands up away as if to say, well, okay, you guys got it. Protect yourself at all times, right? Didn't anybody learn the same lesson Victor Ortiz learned about protect yourself at all times? You know, Ramirez said after the fight, listen, in so many words, listen, okay, my bad. All right. I thought he was gonna break him up. I started to relax and he hit me. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? I will theorize that at that point, Ramirez was a little tired, a little beat up. Taylor was really taking it to him. And hey, no shame in that. He withstood a tremendous amount of punishment from Taylor. He ended that fight on his feet. But, you know, he had really taken a pounding in that round prior and even a little bit before that. So, you know, he's a little tired. He lets his guard down. He relaxes. Listen, Taylor was going to take advantage of it. It was legal. There was no shenanigans. I mean, come on, folks. This is an organic, fluid sport involving human beings with the third guy in the ring. I didn't see anything questionable, actionable. One guy made a mistake and the other guy pounced and capitalized. End of story.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
That's the main adage: protect yourself at all times when it comes into this situation. The only argument that some people have thrown into this is the fact that you felt like that Kenny Bayless yelled Clint to break them up, and while still technically legal, it is frowned upon if you try to hit after the referee orders you to get off the clinch. But that's neither here or there when it comes into that knockdown. Because, like, to me, in many ways, in some areas, Kenny Bayless was a little bit slow in trying to break them up. I felt a little bit maybe he was trying to not seem as being like too much like a homer, like protecting the American, siding with the American, and things in that area, and letting Taylor do a little bit of the work. The one area probably that he should have gone a little bit more is in a couple of the rabbit punches that were landed during the clinch, but those happened. But there was one instance, I forgot which round, that where Ramirez turned around to pretty much say that why he hit me in the back of the head. Taylor went after him, as you should. When the other fighter turns his back on you, it's not a situation where you can see that he's hurt. That's unfortunate narrative. But the fact of the matter is, Taylor boxed well, did the jab, but Ramirez was able to dig in and make it a fight on the inside at times, especially in the beginning. And particularly after the second knockdown, he was able to get into it. But that's probably more on Taylor for really just taking the rounds off, assuming that he won. And we saw how close the scorecards were. If those two knockouts did not exist, you would see a situation where this would have been one of the rarest scorecards you'll see in this fight of this magnitude, a unanimous draw. That I don't think would have been the best satisfactory result. In many ways, like I said, I do, looking back at the fight, I don't mind. Like I said, the right man won. Ramirez has nothing to be ashamed of. It wasn't a wash in the situation. But we don't know where he's gonna wind up. And as far as for Taylor, like I said, making history, first fighter from Scotland or the UK to become fully undisputed in the 4-belt era. And interestingly enough, we now have a streak going along where the junior welterweight title has been completely unified at least once in this century right now. At least once every decade. Kasazu did it in 2004. We know Bud did it in 2017. And now 2021, Josh Taylor did.
And speaking of undisputed, you mentioned that Taylor's undisputed now. The last person who was undisputed champion at 140 pounds, Terrence Bud Crawford. Let's get this into the future. What's next? When Ramirez was asked about it, he's respectfully declined to discuss it because he had just gotten over the fight, was probably still in a little bit of his emotions and whatnot, still upset about the loss. But Taylor, and I'm going back to you, Daniel, on the one hand, I wrote about this for Three Kings Boxing. You can check out my write-up about this in the post-fight press on threekingsboxing.com. Taylor was open for any options available. He talked about staying at 140 and defending the title. If he does, it will more than likely be a defense against WBO mandatory challenger Jack Catterall, who, shout out to him, because the reason that Taylor Ramirez happened to begin with was because Catterall took step aside money for the fight to happen. So should Taylor stay at 140, Catterall is a good possibility that's going to be next. But long term, Taylor talked openly about fighting Terrence Crawford, who's champion at 147 pounds. It's something he's done before. He said he's the man to beat Bud. Your thoughts about Taylor and his strong desire to fight Bud, if you were his handlers, right? The folks at Top Rank, managers and whatnot, what would you do? Would you have him defend the undisputed title before moving up to fight Bud, or would you try to go straight away to seek a fight against Crawford, who, let's be honest here, he needs that fight at this point more than Taylor does?
No, I would get at least one mandatory out of the way. One mandatory out of the way, because one of the criticisms you can throw at Bud when he did Undisputed, he never defended it. He never walked into the ring as the undisputed junior welterweight champion. You can take that feather and that cap and put it on to Josh Taylor if you do the mandatory. As far as trying to make the fight with Bud now, if I'm Bob Arum, yeah, you want to make it because it's a fight that could make you money in the UK. It's a fight that could mend some bridges, considering, like I said, what we're probably going to talk about in the news segment. And like I said, best of all, if you think he can beat Bud, it's probably a good way to make a point to say, like, to pretty much have Bud calm down a little bit from, like I said, the situation that's going on. However, if I'm Taylor's team, if I'm his manager, if I'm in that area, no, I am not putting him in the ring with Bud. Particularly Bud is probably pretty pissed off, considering some other news into it. Because you know how Bud is when he is pissed off. He is going to punish somebody. And even though He didn't fall knocked down. Taylor was rocked a few times by Ramirez, particularly also late in the fight. Now you have a Bud that has more comfortable at welterweight, can box, but does have a really, really bad mean streak in him. A mean streak that's probably being fed right now at every second until we speak. So I would stay away from Bud. If anything, if anything, if you don't get mandatories out the way, there is another fighter that, yeah, you can debate whether or not he's undisputed, but he does have a lot of belts. He is a division down from you. You can ask him to come up because he has been talking about going up. Teofimo Lopez. If Teofimo comes out of his fight with Kambosos and wins, that's a fight between two, and like I said, you can still make an argument that he's not, but two undisputed champions meeting together, where it's like the previous undisputed champion going up in the division to take on the other undisputed champion. That can sell in itself. So there's a lot of opportunities for Taylor. Like right now, he pretty much is going to be playing for the house money.
Division below him, Bo, division above him, to Daniel's point. Taylor, you got options, man. As a forewarning, let me say that even though Terrence Crawford hasn't fought in a minute, he's going to be mentioned a lot during the show, especially when we talk about the situation regarding the breaking news regarding Errol Spence. But let's stick to Taylor right now and what's potentially up next long term. Should he fight Catterall, Bo? It's just on GP because Catterall basically opened the door to for him to become undisputed champion indirectly. Should he fight him? Should he wait for someone like a Teofimo as well, or should he say in 2022 make that move to welterweight?
He should fight Jack Catterall because he gave Jack Catterall his word that he would fight Jack Catterall next. That's the reason why I'm gonna say that. If you give somebody your word, you should, as a man, you should live up to that. But we all do understand how the business works, right? Sometimes money can usurp your word. That's just how it is. But for me, honestly speaking, man, and then Jack Catterall really didn't make it. He didn't make a strong case for himself in his last performance either. His last performance really wasn't that great. So there's a lot of people that be like, yeah, they're not too thrilled about him fighting Jack Catterall. If he'd had an awesome performance, I think people would be more thrilled to see him. But because his performance wasn't that appealing or that sensational, then cats like, But I mean, you're right about one thing. He does have a lot of options. Me personally, I think, and I know I hear what you're saying, Daniel. Here's my thing, because I hear what you're saying about a pissed off Bud Crawford. I don't really know if Bud Crawford is upset. I don't I don't really know if he's upset. I mean, he didn't even sign the contract to fight Manny Pacquiao. Bud Crawford's walking around acting like he ain't got to really do much of any damn thing. He's already in the Hall of Fame. So a guy like that seemingly already has one foot out the door or looking like he's ready to leave Top Rank, I don't know if he's up. I don't know if he's still that same dude that had that dog in him that if you made him mad, he'd chop your head off. But what I do know is that after this victory like this, a confident Josh Taylor, whether Bud is confident or not, at least for a good portion of the fight, can be a problem, can cause a problem for Terrence Crawford. That right now, the mental state that he's in, because mind you, if we saw Bud upset when he made a mistake against Koliaski, and Koliaski dropped him. Now Taylor is a little bit smarter and a much better fighter. So I would be interested to see it, even if Bud is pissed off. Okay, yeah, get in there with a pissed off Bud, beat a Josh Taylor, make that damn statement that you've been wanting to make to let everybody know, yeah, this dude over here, Spence, who ain't fighting me, look who I beat over here. Because right now, Dud, as I've referred to him now, which is Dud Crawford, Dud is falling into that land of obscurity where nobody's talking about him, and that's not the place you want to be in boxing. You got people dropping him off their pound for pound list, moving him down from number one off the pound for pound list. So that's not a situation that he needs to have himself in. So if I'm Crawford, I'm beating the bullhorn for Taylor to come up and fight me, because this is the name you need. Because when you look at the WBO, I mean, who is he going to fight? Josecito Lopez, Casio Clayton? I mean, all of these names, no, these are not names that's going to attract anybody. So after that performance, that's what he needs to do. But for me, Jack Catterall, for me personally, simply because he gave his word, I mean, not Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor, simply because he gave his word that he would fight Jack Catterall because Catterall stepped aside, he should do that. Now, from a money value, you fight Catterall, you'll get a bag simply because it's Jack Catterall. Y'all can fight in the UK, you get a bag. Then you can also fight Teofimo Lopez and get another bag. Then look to fight Bud Crawford. Those are three big payday fights from if I'm looking at it from the financial aspect and the business aspect that he could do. He could fight all three. Heck, you got people want him to fight rematch Regis Prograis. That's another big fight for him. So he's got plenty of options, but I think his team is going to sit and they're going to think of what's the best way for them to take advantage of this opportunity, make a lot of money, but also know and understand that they're putting their fight in a great chance of winning the fight. And if I was going to do that, like you said, Daniel, I would go for Bud Crawford because right now you're hot. Right now that's going to be your biggest payday. And right now there's people out there that think that, man, he could give Terrence Crawford a problem. I don't think he beats him, but I don't think he gets ran over like previous Terrence Crawford opponents either. So I like I like him in the Terrence Crawford fight because Crawford needs a dance partner, and Josh Taylor seems to be a willing and very capable dance partner.
What say you, Bill?
Got to agree. Got to agree with most of what both said, if not all. I think the Catterall fight is more than just keeping his word. That's an opportunity for him to stage a fight in Scotland. He really wants to do that. Now, unfortunately, the pandemic gets a bit of a say here. You know, UK isn't quite as far along the line vaccinating folks and opening up as we are in the United States. But maybe he could do something this summer outdoors, you know, a la Eddie Hearn's fight camp, right? Something along those lines in Scotland, outdoors on the grounds of a castle. That'd be amazing. That'd be fun to watch, you know, just from an entertainment point of view, and the local fans would go crazy. And you know what? He deserves that. It'd be fun. Why not? I don't think it's going to be much of a challenge for him. And then absolutely dare to be great. Who else are we talking about taking a risk on a big fight, you know, that we think he'll probably lose? But Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence, we're going to get into it later, but there is nothing but admiration for the ambition of somebody, you know, really needs not accomplish anything more, but he's going for it. You know what? Josh Taylor, go for it. Absolutely fight Bud Crawford. And you're right. Bud needs Josh more than Josh needs Bud. And I'm not entirely convinced that Crawford's mean streak alone will carry him this time. He's been out of the ring a long time. Taylor is red hot. Taylor's a pretty big junior welterweight. You know, he'll do just fine moving up if he chooses to. What would be interesting to me is if Bud says, "Listen, you know, I once had all those belts. I'll fight you for them again." I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. That's the right matchup. I'm actually more concerned about him facing somebody like Teofimo Lopez. Yes, Lopez would be coming up to Taylor versus Taylor being the one to go up, in theory, to Bud, unless Bud comes down to 140. I don't know. I see more danger in Lopez, although we'll know a lot more when we see his fight with George Kambosos, where that stands. But it's good to have options because anything can happen in boxing. Injuries, pandemics, crazy lawsuits, you never know.
Trying to see who I want to split this one fight up with because I don't need everybody to talk about this next fight. And that is Jose Zepeda and Hank Lundy. Let's go back to you, Daniel, if you were able to see the fight. They fought on the undercard of Taylor and Zepeda. We talked about last week a lot. Zepeda's previous fight against Batyrzhan, which is just back and forth, just violence. Zepeda won by 8th round stoppage. He fought Lundy, and to me, took his foot off the gas. You know, he got the win, but the same vigor, the same enthusiasm, the same level of intensity that he displayed against that he showed against Baranchik, it just wasn't there. Could it be ring? Could it be? I don't know. I don't. Something was missing from him that night. Do you think that Zepeda fights to the level of his competition?
First of all, I'm surprised they actually were not considering the weight. Like Zepeda in the weigh-in looked. He was starting to resemble a skeletal Brandon Rios when he tried to make weight. It's really pale, really bad, and like I said, I'll be honest. That fight, those three scorecards. Those were scorecards that you knew the judges already filled out before not even looking at the fight. Because Lundy was countering, Lundy was landing, and while he did make him miss a few times, Zepeda didn't really look good in this fight. But he was a late replacement, and we know sometimes when you're a late replacement against a house fighter, the house is going to win no matter what. So that's in that type of situation. Lundy proved that he could probably handle the punches of somebody that with some power 140, which is good considering he was been a lightweight for pretty much his whole career. But there's not much he can do right now at lightweight. So why not go up to 140? You've already, and with this fight, you've proven that you can handle yourself in 140 pounds. As for Zepeda, that's I may be looking just on the weight alone. I may be looking at welterweight. It's probably his immediate future.
I don't know. Part of me thinks that with the situation with Zepeda, after the fight against Baranchik, he had a lot of rest and he just probably just put on a lot of weight. I think now that he's back in the fold, now that he's fighting, hopefully I'll get him in the ring sooner. He'll take better control of his weight. I don't think he's struggling to make weight. I just think he put on too much weight in between this fight because to your point, Daniel, he did look rather gaunt, emaciated at the weigh-in. Let's move on to some news, and I hinted that we're going to talk about Bud Crawford a lot. Going to talk about him a lot in this next story about Errol Spence. Bo, I'm going to let you talk about this last because you and 2K over at Three Kings have had a lot to say about Spence and Crawford specifically. So I'm going to give you the floor to just go off on this. But first, I'm going to go to Gail. For those who do not know, late last week, Pacquiao put out a tweet saying he was going to fight Errol Spence on August 21st. PBC soon followed with the tweet of their own that the fight is going to happen, so it is a reality. Go to you, Gail, to your earlier point in our discussion about fighters taking chances when we're just talking Taylor. Got to give it up to Spence here. His resume at 147 right now, miles ahead of anyone. Fighting Porter to unify, fighting Garcia, right? He's coming back to fight Pacquiao. Last time we saw him in the ring, beating up Keith, not beating up, but he defeated Keith Thurman. I know Pacquiao is old, but if his last fight is any indication, he's still got something left in the tank. Your reaction to this, were you surprised once it was announced, pleasantly surprised? Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasantly surprised. There wasn't a whisper of this until it suddenly was reality. There was no back and forth. There was no rumors. There was no, surrogates discussing it. No, they just got down to business, made the deal. Boom. Here you go, folks. Enjoy. It can be done. Exhibit A, it can be done, everybody. Just get to your business, get your people to talk, and make the fights. it proves if the fighters want to do it, it will happen. And Pacquiao did not need this fight. You know, the truth is, if Pacquiao decided to ride off into the sunset to become president of the Philippines, which, you know, I don't know that we really sit back and appreciate how amazing that statement is, knowing where he came from. You know, he's old enough to run for office. He never needs to fight again. His legacy is secured many times over. And then he goes and does something daring like this. And everyone just, you know, you have to stand, applaud, and respect him for it. And maybe he loses, and maybe he gets wiped out. I don't know. I would think he'd take the fight if he didn't think he had a darn good chance to win. A lot of people didn't think he'd beat Keith Thurman. But sometimes speed is, you know, even though Pacquiao was certainly slowed down at 42, he still got faster hands than most other potential opponents at any age. And he's so experienced. You know, you can't match that virtually with anybody out there right now. Looking at his record, at his legacy, at how many different fighters and styles across all these divisions he's fought, he's learned something from each of them. Yes, including all the losses. So I think this will be much more competitive than people think. And in a way, it will remind me a little bit, I think, of the Estrada Chocolatito rematch. Yes, Chocolatito lost, but it was wildly entertaining. Great efforts from both, razor thin margin. And both guys come out as winners to the fans. And at this point, I think that's really all that matters to Pacquiao. The stakes are really a lot higher for Spence, you know? He doesn't have a loss on his record. He's younger. He's expected to win. Sometimes those expectations weigh very heavy. It's going to be a great money-making fight. It's at the right time of the year. Should have a full crowd. It's genius. And here we go. Guess who's looking in from the outside with his face pressed to the window like a 5-year-old? We all know who I'm talking about.
Man, come on, listen. I'm going to you on this one, Daniel. Pacquiao, he didn't need this fight, but he took it. Real talk, Spence didn't need this fight either, but they took it. The best fighting the best, putting it all on the line. Big stage, going to draw a lot of attention, a lot of fans and whatnot. You got to love it.
Yes, on his face, you gotta love it, because this is a high caliber fight between one of the best fighters of his generation, if not all time, versus one of the better young fighters who's still recovering to build himself up back to what he was before a car accident, if it happens. Because unfortunately, I am in the same position with this fight that I was with Canelo and Saunders. And y'all know what my position was. I did not believe that Saunders was going to have that fight until he actually stepped foot in the ring, in the bell ring. Part of me, for some reason, says Manny's team's going to realize what they said and then go like, no, you didn't mean Errol Spence. You meant Josecito Lopez. You're fighting Josecito Lopez for your farewell fight, because you're not going to risk anything for the next year coming up if you run for president. Because if, at least because I know some people in the Philippines, if some things are coming up the way they're coming up, he may not have a chance, because there's a candidate out there in the Philippines who is tied to the old Marcos dictatorship, apparently. And even Showtime even covered this, actually, in the documentary on the Marcos regime last year. There's a chance that that person may run in, and Pacquiao, I think, has tied himself in favor with that group. So that could probably happen. But if this is the way it is, as it stands, if no chicanery happens, it is an excellent fight, because For Manny, he doesn't really need this. It's true. He doesn't really need this at all. He's done all that he can. Like the only real blemishes you can say on the record is you can dispute some of the wins he got against Marquez, and obviously not being able to beat Floyd. But everybody in the world wanted him to beat Floyd, outside the Floyd fans. And when they cut, but so Spence has everything to gain from this. You imagine Errol Spence saying, "I beat Manny Pacquiao. I retired Manny Pacquiao." That's an accolade that doesn't matter who holds whatever belt. That solidifies him as the top dog at welterweight, no matter what. So cross your fingers, because hopefully it does happen. But it's an interesting thing though about the date. This is happening because I want to know if PBC jumped on this date because they saw the implosion of a fight we're probably going to talk about next, and they figured, oh, let's jump on this while now that there's an opening.
Let me do my best impersonation of Bo on Three Kings Boxing. Get the hand rub. Gail mentions how there's a certain fighter who's being left out looking ugly at this point. And the fighter that she talked about is Terrence Crawford. We talked about him discussing Taylor. And while a lot of folks win because this fight is being made, there's one big loser. And there's a certain fighter nicknamed Bud from Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah, he had the opportunity to fight. Things fell through. He didn't sign the contract. He dismissed Spence like he's an afterthought, like he's not worthy of his time. But you looking kind of silly right now. And you talking about someone who had you number one pound for pound for the longest. And in terms of skill, you still probably are. But in a what have you done lately boxing landscape, you're losing, bruh. You're losing. And you're the biggest loser, to quote the name of the game show, in the aftermath of all of this. Kudos for Spence and Pacquiao fight being made, but the man from Texas, Mr. Crawford, he's pulling your card because the money that you were supposed to make fighting Pacquiao, he's taking that and more money off the top. Let me do it one more time. First of all, give a shout out to Sean and Olaf in the chat. The floor is yours, my brother.
Oh man, every now and then, right, during a generation of fighters, we get that one fighter that we think is gonna be that guy, right? We had it with Mike Tyson, and then all of a sudden, he stupefyingly chased everybody away that could keep this motherfucker sharp in boxing, right? He ran everybody away, and then look at what we got. All right. Bud Crawford has allowed Dud Crawford, D-U-D, has allowed Errol Spence to take food off his plate. Now, let's keep one thing in mind also. You also have a situation of his own promoter, Bob Arams, is not putting Bud Crawford at the forefront in positions to be successful. You cannot have him fighting a washed-up Amir Khan and think that's going to wow us. You cannot have him fighting an even more washed-up Kell Brook and think that's going to wow us. So when you look at the position that the other promoter has been putting him in versus the position they've been putting Errol Spence in, he's been being put in failed position after failed position. You beat Jeff Horn, got that, didn't have a problem with that. But when they never delivered Pacquiao to you because they wanted him to fight Pacquiao as a pass of the torch, Freddie Roach said no, and then Pacquiao dipped and bounced. When they didn't deliver that fight, that's when Bud Crawford should have been looking for his he should have been handing his walking papers. Well, man, I'm out of here. Because if I'm looking at the landscape, what am I going to do? right? Errol Spence has the car accident. That kind of derailed things. So right now, Bud is living in the bubble, and not a top ranked bubble, a delusional mental bubble that he's living in right now, which is I'm already in the Hall of Fame. If I leave right now, I'll be in the Hall of Fame. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but when active fighters start talking like that, there's only two things that happen to them. They either retire or they next fight they get their ass whooped. The only two things I know happen to fighters that talk like that. No active fighter is going to be talking as if he's, already in the Hall of Fame, knowing that there's still fights out there for him to have. And if he thinks that, I'm not saying don't think that way, but you shouldn't talk that way. So to allow Errol Spence, and Gail put it best, there was not even a whisper of this. So to allow Errol Spence to just come in like, oh, you want that big piece of chicken? Thanks, bro. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna sit, move, scoot over. Yeah, I'm gonna sit at the head of the table. You can sit over here on the side. Like that's just, I don't know what more can be said about that. But at the end of the day, if this isn't a message to Bud Crawford that when your contract is up in October, you need to leave. If that's not a message for him, that's what he needs to do. I don't know what I don't. I mean, outside of just being hit over the head bluntly, I don't know what you can do. You got, like I said, his own promoter said, I've wasted a lot of money on Terrence Crawford. I'm not gonna let nobody talk like that about me. And I'm supposed to be your fighter. You're gonna talk like that about me? Oh man, I'm out of here. So at the end of the day, man, there's no point of going round and round and round. And I don't want to beat up on the guy, but at the end of the day, the fight that Errol Spence has with Manny Pacquiao, if Errol Spence, just the fact that Errol Spence got the Pacquiao fight signed, the purse split now is 80-20. If Errol Spence wins, okay, it's 90-10. So now it's like, okay, what choice you got, bro? Because I got to fight with Pacquiao. That puts you 80-20. Now I beat Manny Pacquiao, and I know Daniel, I actually hear what Daniel is saying. The only thing that I would say is I think Manny goes through with it because I firmly believe he's been guaranteed the money that he wants for this type of fight. He wanted $20 million to fight Terrence Crawford. So I believe that they probably said, you know what, you fight Errol Spence, we'll give you that $20 million. Not a problem. So I think that the money will be enough for him to take the fight. And on top of that, Manny Pacquiao, even at 43 years old, and there's a lot, and people are already trying to talk about Spence finna beat up on an old man. Well, nobody felt that way when he was about to fight Bud Crawford. He was a Hall of Fame when he's about to fight Bud Crawford. He was a living legend. Now all of a sudden Spence about to fight him. Now it's, he's beating up on an old man. But I think the money is there for him to fight. Bud Crawford needs to do a serious evaluation. Bud Crawford needs to sit and really evaluate, because when I look at his overall resume, when you look at the names on his resume, he got good names. The one name that really stands out to me is Yarkis Gamboa. All the other names, Victor Postal, not necessarily a household name. A lot of people have felt that his run in Undisputed was extremely weak, especially compared to Josh Taylor's run in Undisputed. That's a comparison a lot of people are making, is if you look at Josh Taylor running Undisputed versus Terrence Crawford running Undisputed, a lot of people are saying that was pretty weak. Okay. So at the end of the day, he's going to have to do a serious evaluation. He's going to have to sit back and ask himself, that question. He's going to have to look in that mirror and, excuse my language, and say, drop that N word. What are we going to do? He's going to look in that mirror and say, what are we going to do? Igga, what are we going to do? Because this dude just took the fight that I should have had. This dude is being put in the spotlight for the third or fourth time he's been put in a high spotlight profile fight. Fourth time coming back. So coming back off a car accident, no tune-up with the Danny Garcia, not Manny Pacquiao, and
fourth time back to back. Mikey Garcia, Thurman, Danny Garcia, and now Pacquiao.
No, you mean
back
Porter.
To back to back.
Porter.
That's what I'm saying. Mikey Garcia, Porter, then Danny Garcia, and now Pacquiao. Back to back to back to back.
Yeah. And then don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if the WBA said, you know what, Ugis, you know what, mira, ven aquí, mira. Solamente estamos bromeando. We were joking, my friend. here's a box of Skittles, a couple $100,000, and a ticket to the Bahamas. Take your girl. But we're gonna have to take back that super title and bump you back down to regular. And yeah. We're gonna have our belt part of that fight because I don't see the WBA missing out on a payday of the sanctioning fees like this. Oh no! So be on the lookout for the WBA to reinstate Manny Pacquiao as the super champion and put that belt in that fight.
Bolo.
Comment here in the chat from Olaf. He says that Bob Arum only looks out for Bob Arum. He's a cancer to the sport. Well, if you're going to make that claim respectfully, Olaf, excuse me, hell, damn near all promoters look out for themselves. This is a self-serving sports in many aspects. Promoters, fighters, managers, they all look out for number one, right? Here's the thing, though. It doesn't absolve Crawford and where he has gone wrong from career-wise, right? He could have left Arum. He could have did what Floyd Mayweather did, left, buy himself out of the contract, and moved on, especially once it was pretty much established that the talent at 147 was over with PBC. If the fights are there and if the money's there, damn it, you go seek it to prove you're the best. He could have done that, and it doesn't absolve him and his comments, what he said about it doesn't absolve the fact that the deal with Pacquiao didn't get done, that he didn't at least sign the contract. And I have to take shots at the brother for his comments about Spence. Everybody know. Look, Spence and Pacquiao is happening now. Still, the fight that folks want to see at 147 is Crawford and Spence. That's still the fight that folks want to see. You don't sit there and dismiss Spence like that and say he's not you're not thinking about him. And then come back, double back and say, I'm not interested in that fight. I'm not going to take that fight or whatever. You don't do it. That's on him. And he has to be accountable for that. He has to be called out for it. So I can hear what you said about Arum, but a lot of Spence, a lot of what Crawford's done, a lot of things about Crawford, it's his own doing. It really is. Wrap this up for us, Gail, before we move on.
Bottom line is I have no reason not to think this fight's going to occur. Boxing's a business. We had these two men and their camps get right down to business, do business, get a fight made. Lesson learned for Bud. Unfortunately, I think this lesson's going to come too late for him. And it's really a shame to see somebody's talent squandered. More frequently, it's because their work ethic is poor. That's not really the case here. It's just that he's made some very, very poor career decisions.
One more news note before we get to the fights, and I may split this next news story here just to a couple of people, and then split the fights between individuals so we can cut the time even shorter on the show. I'm not trying to go past 75, 90 minutes this evening. The fallout from the arbitrary hearing last week, we talked about how arbitrator Weinstein ruled that Tyson Fury must make next fight must be against Deontay Wilder. Well, in the aftermath, there was a discrepancy about step aside money who was going to take that. The bottom line is that both Fury and Wilder have signed to fight each other for a trilogy, July 24th. It's being talked about at the stadium in Las Vegas. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gail. I'll go to you first. Your thoughts, your reaction to the kind of domino effect that the Weinstein ruling has had, and the fact we're going to see Fury Wilder 3.
A lot of people are angry about this. And to me, there's one and only one culprit. And it is Olaf. It is Bob Arum. Bob Arum is a lawyer to boot. He's the one that oversees these contracts. He should know every line item in them, or the people he designates should know every line item in them. And he assured all the parties, including Eddie Hearn, who should be perhaps the most angry person out of this whole group involved, that, oh, that rematch clause, nah, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here, move along. He was wrong. He was really, really wrong. They should have never gotten into this negotiation, assuming that everything would be okay, that Wilder would meekly go away, or there was some expiration. I've never heard of a expiration in a contract unless it's explicitly there. Come on, folks. We've heard it all our lives. Read the fine print, or hire someone who can read the fine print. They didn't read it. It's not the arbitrator's fault. It's certainly not Wilder's fault. You know, whether or not you like the fact that the Fury-Joshua fight's been derailed, you have to hand it to Wilder and his legal team for exercising their rights and getting what he deserved per the contract. So the one guy making the most of this seems to be Tyson Fury. Nobody in modern boxing can sell a fight like Tyson Fury. And to see him bust onto the set, you know, he photo bombs the ESPN set before his scheduled interview appearance. And then he comes on and calls Wilder a bitch on cable TV. I love it. I absolutely love it. You know, it's not the fight we wanted, but we're all going to watch. And it's not a bad fight. It's not a bad fight. It gives Fury an opportunity to really tar and feather Wilder if he can do it. It's a very interesting opportunity for Wilder to go straight to this fight after he was humiliated to get redemption. So there's an interesting storyline that can be built. Absolutely, we're disappointed not to see Fury and Joshua. If Fury does his part, if Joshua ends up in a fight with Alexander Usyk, which looks like is going to be sort of his consolation prize, and they both do business, we'll end up with Joshua and Fury. And the one silver lining might be that because of the delay, it can be relocated to Wembley Stadium. I get it that Saudi money will be very hard to give up. But that is where the fight belongs, is in the United Kingdom. So let's hope that happens. It's been a very interesting week. I really think that Bob Arum needs to be, you know, all fingers need to point to him. He needs to take responsibility for what happened.
We've been hitting folks over the head with this revolving door that is Fury, Wilder, and Joshua over at Three Kings Boxing. I believe I was the one who wrote the news about Weinstein. We've been hitting articles daily, multiple articles a day. As an aside, for those who wonder about Joshua, he looks like it's a high probability that he's going to fight Usyk late summer, October 21st, 28th, or late August, early September is the talk of the day. Eddie Hearn mentioned it today. You can see what he had to say on threekingsboxing.com. Your reaction, Bo, to the ruling, your reaction to the fact that we're going to see Fury Wilder 3. And does Gail have a point here? Is the man most at fault? The person most at fault here is one Bob Arum?
You know, I want to apologize to Gail. I've been a lousy boyfriend, man. I ain't been around enough.
No.
I gotta apologize to Gail. I've been such a lousy boyfriend, you know. But I did run off Chavez Jr., so
Thank you.
I'm still holding that one down.
Oh, he's still lurking out there. Yeah.
You know,
leaving a woman to defend herself.
I'm telling you, Gail has an excellent point. And here's why she has an excellent point. Bob Arum actually attended the arbitration meeting. So he knows what was said there and went on there. And I wrote the article where after that meeting, he said there were things in that meeting that were said that can lead to ideas of a negotiation. So he knew damn well there was a high probability that the fight was going to happen. Now, the only reason why I think 90% of the blame goes to Bob Arams, 10% I think goes, 5% goes to Eddie Hearns, and 5% goes to Frank Warren. And here's why: they were all being so greedy to wait to get that Saudi money that they waited too long. They waited too long, and they gave the arbitration a chance to go off. They should have immediately, when it was determined that Fury and Wilder wasn't happening, when Fury opted out in December, because remember, the fight was signed December 19th. They were going to fight. Then the network said, nope, the available dates we have, y'all, is in January. That's when Tyson Fury said, okay, well, forget it. I'm not waiting. I'm opting out. I want to fight on the 5th. UK was in lockdown. Fury didn't have a fight in the 5th. Right away, they should have been like, listen, we need to have a fight between Joshua and Fury no later than March, maybe April. We need to have that fight. They took too damn long. And when the arbitrators saw that you could have fought, and then on top of that, you have a fight that you pushed out till August? Oh, no, hell no. Hell no. Get that man his fight. This was all of them hoping to maximize the most amount of money they could, which is, I'm not going to say you're not supposed to, but at some point, and I agree with Gail when she said you have to have in the UK, at some point, you got to put that greed in your back pocket. And you got to take the money that's there versus the money that you think you're going to get down the line, right? Because we could just as easily, what if Deontay Wilder wins? Now we got to watch a 4th goddamn fight with him and Tyson Fury. And if that happens, goddamn it, fuck, I'm retired from boxing. Fuck it, I'm done writing about it. I don't even want to know. I'm sick, right? Then, it's not, Usyk has a good shot against Anthony Joshua. It's not that far-fetched to think that or not. He has a decent shot, right? And if that happens, okay. Or you could have a situation where, maybe, Usyk possibly did beat Joshua, but they gave it to Joshua, and vice versa with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. They just gave it to him. Now now you're looking at corruption, and people are like, hey, man, y'all boxing just wanted this fight because of the money. So at the end of the day, man, Bob Arams knew this was going to happen. But I also want to give credit for one person. Whoever in Deontay Wilder's camp told him, shut the fuck up and let this play out. So he stopped talking, put up the training workout videos, that's fine. But shut the fuck up. Because when you open your mouth, it's never good. Kudos to that person.
Conspiratorial nonsense about the gloves.
Yeah, kudos to that person that got him to hush that damn Alabama mouth and be quiet and just go train. Because, like Gail said, Bob Arum is a lawyer. You know who else is a lawyer? Al Heyman. And you're not going to sit there and tell me, leaving the arbitration hearing, that he didn't have an inkling that it was going to happen. And here's how I know he knew. You already have a date and a location and contract signed all within the same week of the announcement. When the fuck does that happen? And how come that didn't happen with AJ and Fury? So, yeah, they knew. Bob Arum knew, and I think he was hoping and didn't say nothing to Eddie Hearns. And at the very least, he kind of duped both of those guys, man.
Yeah, sometimes waiting for the money can be a detriment in the end. To your point, Bo, there was a window there that the fight could have happened, and it didn't, and now there's a bit of ball of confusion. The powers that be do want Joshua and Fury. Let's not make a mistake about that. We're really being honest here. But you never know what's going to happen in these. You never know what's going to happen in the ring. And the tangled web that is the heavyweight division, it continues on for the time being. Let's move on to preview some fights here because, like I said, I don't want this particular episode to be too long. Get to some fights here. I'm going to start with you, Daniel. And where should we go? Let's go to the zone, right? Devin Haney, who is the WBC lightweight champion. I'm sorry to your female Lopez fans. Haney is the WBC champ, full stop, right? He's returning to the ring after a performance against Gamboa that was like, he makes his return to the ring this weekend to fight a multi-divisional champion, former multi-divisional champion, Jorge Linares. Um, you never know what you're going to get with Linares, but the consistent thing about him is that he doesn't have the greatest chin in the world. He's in his mid 30s now. On paper, it looks like this is an opportunity for Haney to really shine. He's been criticized a lot because a lot of people feel that his style is too safe. He's safety first, and he doesn't have any real power. If he has power, legit power, there's an opportunity to show it here against Linares, who's still fast, who's still quick. But again, who can be hurt and who has been knocked out.
This is going to be a very interesting fight because this is a fight that Haney needs in reality. Because obviously, like I said, you mentioned it. Like, yes, he is by all technical terms, and this also did come from Mauricio Solomon's mouth himself. He is the actual WBC lightweight champion. I know the Filipino fans are going to try to throw the franchise tag out there, but let's be blunt, the franchise tag don't mean shit. So there's that, and there's also the fact that for like Gail mentioned, for 6 rounds, for at least half the fight, Linares can make you work and maybe get off a couple of shots too while you're at it. So he's going to come in at least for 6 rounds. He's going to be a very dangerous fighter. What Haney needs to do is make sure that Linares doesn't establish his jab, doesn't get any combinations going, and at the same time attack the body. Like I said, he's exceptional for 6 rounds, and then the other 6 rounds is kind of a crapshoot. So try to reduce that to 5, maybe 4 rounds by attacking the body. Because right now, the lightweight picture is pretty far of the moment. We know Teofimo's the guy. We know he's the guy. But then, like I said, you have Ryan Garcia still out there because even though he stepped out of his fight, he's still a contender right now.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you was finished.
No, I'm sorry, but like I said, this fight he's still a contender. We have Jojo Diaz now stepping into the picture because now his fight with Javier Fortuna is now for the WBC interim lightweight title. So that's to make him his mandatory. And not to mention that Loma's still lurking out there. He still wants to stay a lightweight for some reason instead of doing the sensible thing, going back down to 130. And he's going to fight Tommy next. So there's not a secure picture as far as who you want to get. And I even forgot, I said, Tank Davis is also a factor here too. So he needs to step up to the plate. Unfortunately, at least in my eyes, there is a possibility to me that Linares pulls this out because I think he knows this is pretty much his last chance.
First, before I go to you, Gail, Bo, he, like I said, when we began the show, he's working on an important project, so he's stopped by here to give some talk, to speak on this, to speak on the news and what's happening around. I want to thank him for joining the show. If you want to check out Bo talking boxing or whatnot, if you first and foremost, you can check out his work over on threekingsboxing.com, where he's head of media relations. You can also check him out on Twitter, Truth and Fact Sports Talk, at TRUTH_FACTBOX1. Let me repeat that, at TRUTH_FACTBOX1. I want to thank him for joining us on the show. Going back to you, Gail, to talk about Haney and Linares. That's why it's going to happen in Las Vegas. On the undercard, you have Chantelle Cameron, who I would consider in the Katie Taylor sweepstakes, if you will. She has the WBC title at 140 pounds. She won the belt in her last bout. In the unanimous decision of Arahu, right? Arahu failed to make weight. Cameron did what she had to do and won by decisive fashion. I think she won every round across the board in that bout. She returns to make the first title defense of that WBC 140-pound belt against Melissa Hernandez. I admit I don't know that much about Hernandez. I was unable to do proper research during the show, before the show, I should say, before this live recording. If you've seen footage of Hernandez, how do you assess her style? And what do you think chances she has against Cameron? Excuse me.
Cameron's undefeated. This is a fight that's been delayed. So this will be her first title defense after that win last October. So she's been out, 6 months or so. Hernandez is a veteran, 23, 7-3, 7 knockouts from Puerto Rico. This is her third attempt at a title. She's also fought for the WBC featherweight belt. She's also fought for the WBC lightweight belt. She's going to give it another shot here at super lightweight. She'll be sturdy. She's experienced. That's a good fight for Cameron. I don't think she'll have any trouble with her. A 50% knockout percentage for a male fighter isn't real impressive. It's a little more meaningful for a female fighter. It means they're willing to really get in there and scrap and go for it. She's fun to watch. And this will advance her cause. You're right. Everybody's in the Katie Taylor sweepstakes, which is kind of funny. But you know what? You're someone in the Jessica McCaskill sweepstakes too, which I'm sure will make Bo very happy. So it's great exposure for her. This is a really nice addition to this undercard. This card is coming up on, big holiday weekend in the United States. I'm concerned the entire card's going to fly under the radar, and that would be a shame. I hope people will set aside time from whatever their activities are. For a lot of folks, it's, they're really their first opportunity since the pandemic shutdown to have kind of a summer weekend with family and, everybody vaccinated. So come on, folks, add some boxing to your entertainment calendar this weekend.
Let's go from Vegas to the place formerly known as StubHub, that place I still call StubHub. Low key, very good bout is happening at 118 pounds, Daniel, as Nordine Oubaali is defending his WBC belt, bantamweight belt, against if you will, in the lower weight divisions, Nonito Donaire. Last time we saw Donaire he gave an epic battle. He gave Naoya Inoue the toughest fight of his career. One of the fights of the year in 2019, the finals of the World Boxing Super Series bantamweight tournament. Inoue won, but he suffered a fractured eye socket in the fight. I thought, thinking about it, Inoue was stunned. He was hurt for the first time in his career. Just a fantastic fight. When I saw Donaire defeat Rashid Warren for the vacant WBC title back in, I think it was January of 2019, I was not that impressed. But in subsequent title defenses against Villanueva and against Naoya Inoue's younger brother Takuma Inoue, I was impressed. Oubaali can really, really box. He's very skilled, and he has enough power to not only just keep guys honest, but to hurt and take out guys with an accumulation of punishment. I'm having a tough time picking this fight. The guile, the experience, the power of Donaire versus the faster hands and feet and boxing ability of Oubaali. Part of me thinks that Oubaali, with his skill and with his speed and his youth, can really do a job and outbox Donaire. But as we've seen in the Inoue fight, Donaire still has that left hook. He still has experience. He knows he still has it in him to get to the target. I'm not even going to try to predict the winner here. I'm just going to enjoy the fight for what it is, Daniel, and just try to watch it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the redemption story of Nonito Donaire going back down to bantamweight, his best weight, and showing one of the adages that he may be older, but he still has all that skill. And we do know, like I said, the last thing to leave a fighter is power. So he has a bit of a pop still in that punch. But this is going to be, to me, a very, very entertaining fight. And in many ways, what better grounds in many ways to put this type of fight in than StubHub? Then the arena that's just seen, we've just seen what happened. Like we saw Ariola Ruiz. Like, yeah, it didn't turn into a slugfest, but it was a pretty good fight when you take a look back at it. And we saw it a couple weeks ago, Brandon Figueroa, star-making performance against Luis Neri, and Danny Roman having a hell of a fight. Something about that arena brings out the best in this area. And considering the goals that Donaire has set for himself, which include rematches with Inoue, and for some mundane reason, a rematch with Rigondeaux, it's a good way to start, and it gets him back into a picture. Bantamweight, we know it's kind of a lull because, anyways, right now, like still probably recovering from that broken orbital bone. You really can't pick a winner because Oubaali does have that pop that can keep Donaire honest, but it's going to be something that's going to work to watch. And whichever way, if Oubaali wins, like I said, it's the fight that he dethrones a great older statesman champion. And if Donaire wins, the redemption story continues.
Indeed, on the undercard, Gail. Haven't talked about this fighter a lot, but I believe you know a lot about him. Subriel Matias, fighting a fighter by the name of Jukembayev, um, in an elimination, a world title eliminator of IBF version, I believe. Because we haven't talked about Matias that much, give some fans, the folks out there who don't know him, some insight on him and his your thoughts on his upcoming fight.
Matias is a young Puerto Rican fighter. He is 16-1, but all 16 wins have been by knockout. He's only gone past the fourth round once, I believe, in all of his fights. And the majority of his stoppages have been in the first round. Probably the best known name on his resume is Breedis Prescott. Kind of a rode hard Breedis Prescott, but nevertheless, somebody that, he wasn't at all intimidated by. His last fight was in the bubble against Malik Hawkins, who was a prospect at the time, very well regarded, who was 18 and 18-0 with 11 knockouts of his own. Everybody thought, this guy's got it going on. He's on the rise. And Matias took him out. So
Yeah, I wrote about that fight.
that
Hawkins was
big
talking. Yeah,
surprise.
sorry, Baltimore. Sorry, BMO fans who gave me a lot of praise for that write up. But yeah, Hawkins was talking a lot, and
A lot of crap.
Matias,
Oh man,
Molly whopped him that night.
he whooped him. Yeah. So largely based on the strength of that fight, he's getting this opportunity this weekend. And this is the plus of this is, he gets to be in front of fans, which is going to be nice for him after having fought in the bubble. But he does not exactly have an easy road ahead of him. He is going to face yet another undefeated fighter in Batyrzhan Jukembayev of Kazakhstan, a southpaw, young, 18-0, 14 knockouts. So between the two, they have fought 34 fights, and they have a combined total of, maybe math, 28 knockouts. That's a lot. That's a lot. Do not expect this fight to go to the final bell. And it's at Dignity Health Sports Park, aka StubHub, aka Home Depot Center, aka the War Grounds in Carson. This fight, which is a super lightweight fight, I think could steal the show. I really do. It could be one of those Carson classics that we all love. You know, records on the line. Jukembayev, has an undefeated record to worry about maintaining. But Matias, is the one who's got kind of the upward graph. So I think they're just going to let it rip. I really do. I do also want to comment, though, the Oubaali Donaire fight, that should not get under your radar, folks. And let me point something out. Oubaali came to boxing very late. He decided to fight his way through 2 opportunities for Olympic medals. So he stuck around as an amateur longer than I think he really intended. He has only been a professional since he's 34 now. He turned professional at 28 years old. So his professional career is a fraction of what Donaire's is. I think that wily old man just might kick his ass. And they're not that different in age. There's a lot of thinking that fighters in the smaller weight divisions age more quickly. So when you have somebody Donaire's age, who I believe he's 37, 38, you think, okay, he's really pretty up there in age for a bantamweight. Oubaali's 34. He's no kid. I don't know. I'm thinking, Donaire would like to go out in a blaze of glory with a win. I think he'll be very motivated, and the experience comparison is no comparison at all, and that might be what gets Donaire to the win.
I think Gail is sensing a possible upset here in terms of Oubaali.
I think I am.
And I think we're going to close the show down on that note. I will say, I'm gonna leave it as I said earlier about Oubaali and Donaire. I can't even call it. I'm not gonna try to call it. I'm just gonna enjoy the fight for what it is and hope it's a good one, because on paper it has a chance to be. And Matias and Jukembayev, I'm just looking forward to that fight too. Going to close the show on that note. I want to thank Olaf for his comments in the chat. I want to thank Sean Fitzgerald for his comments in the chat, as I said earlier. I want to thank Bo from Truth and Facts Sports Talk, as well as through King Boxing. Hope to have him on again soon. Going to go around the panel here. But before that, if you like what you heard this evening on YouTube, either live right now or if you're checking the show out later, please make sure to hit that. Please do us a favor and hit that like button. Please make sure to subscribe if you're checking us out on podcast platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, anything and everything else in between. Please follow us there. Follow us on iTunes. Follow us on Spotify, Anchor as well. And please make sure to leave a review on Spotify and iTunes. A 5-star review will get read on the show. Though I didn't start the show with ladies first this evening, I'm going to end the show with ladies first this evening. Gail for Communities Digital News in the Falcon Valley Group. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk media, because you do teach media, let the folks know where they can find you. Let the folks know where they can see you again on TMZ Live, and a quick plug for the Falcon Valley Group for those who
nobody's acted up enough on TMZ to have me back. So, well, hopefully I'll be right at the beginning of. I assume I'll be back right after the Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you all enjoy your Memorial Day weekend and remember why we are taking that day off, to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Easy words to say. Think about those people that you may have had in your life, in your family tree, as your neighbors, as real people who are allowing us to enjoy the freedoms we're going to enjoy this weekend. A lot of us for the first time after a very rough year or two. Oh, that was an awfully serious statement. We've had a fun show, and it was good to have guests first, because it was great to have Bo back on the show, and I'm sure as time permits he'll be back. He is the spice on top. of this show. You can find me at Communities Digital News. That's COMMDIGI News, comdiginews.com.
And for those who want to know what the Falcon Valley Group is and what that entails.
Just to mention, that is my Skills That Pay the Bills. That's my public relations company located in sunny Slam Diego, California.
And for those who want to reach out to and hire to do some media work, is there an email or whatever that people can reach you out at?
You just look me up on my website, and it is falconvalleygroup.com. Falcon like the bird, valleygroup.com.
Indeed. I'll go to you, Daniel, from the Inscriber, and for Boxing News. I'm sorry for your Miami Heat, who had it handed to him this evening by the Milwaukee Bucks doing the live episode, doing this particular episode.
Know what, Daniel? My Padres had it handed to us by Milwaukee tonight too, so I feel your pain.
For those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk wrestling, because you are a big pro wrestling fan, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially as it pertains to your Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Well, the Heat lost, but the Panthers actually put a comeback win. Were first Game 6 against the Lightning in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it wasn't a bad night overall, but definitely catch me on Twitter, folks. RAWKUZ99 on Twitter. And like I said, we're back up on the Inscriber. We're going to make sure that everything is listed here for you. And we, like I said, got the stories on the arbitration, did a quick recap on the Ramirez Taylor, and definitely going to catch up on some of these fights. And this, I'm uploading it as we speak. We did a show last night covering, like I said, the fights coming up. And we're actually going to do another show Thursday where we're going to be able to see where we weren't able to talk to when it comes to last week because Joe Francis went on a little bit of vacation. And we're going to get things going again here, folks, because I don't know how we're going to handle Father's Day weekend. There's too many cards.
Cards. Yeah. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness with me, you know what it is. Brother JR76 at Brother JR76 on Twitter. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to find out all information, any information regarding Pound for Pound Boxer Report, the website is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.com, and repeat that, p4pboxingreport.com. Just check the top portion of the page where you can for ways to follow us all over podcast platform spaces, the iTunes, the Spotify's, the Anchors, and whatnot. On the bottom portion of the page, you can find where to follow us all over social media, where you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, IG, Tumblr, where you can email the show. And if you want to email us, you can email us p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport. To repeat that, p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport. We'd love to hear your questions, your commentary as it pertains to the sweet science. And last but certainly not least, for those who want to donate, let donation be the best nation. Cash Me and PayPal donation links on the page. And if you want to get your fitness game up, get your body ready for the summer, or if you want to lose some pounds during the summer, take advantage of this heat and humidity, sweat some pounds off, check out my online coaching page over on a Pound for Pound Box Report website. It will take you to Beachbody On Demand. If you're interested, take advantage of the 2-week trial that runs throughout the year. And that is where on Beach, if you interested in the 2-week trial, but that is for 2 weeks, you get access to all of the existing programs on Beachbody On Demand. I would take advantage of that if I were you. Or if you're interested in some of my Let's Build Together challenges, or if you're interested in a particular program, be it the P90X series, be it for the ladies, bar blend, or for the guys too. You may be interested in this as well. Bar blend, more than meltdown, Pacquiao, and other workouts that women love. Universal workouts as well, like the Insanity series, Insanity Asylum, Shift Shop, 6 weeks of the work, which is one of my favorites, but yet most challenging. The new program that's getting ready to drop this later on this year, 645, for Beachbody coaches, early access for that is going to drop in July, I believe. Or if you're interested in things like Shakeology or some of the merch and the products, some such as the bands, um, sandbags for those who like resistance work and whatnot. Uh, all that you can find on my online coaching page on Pound for Pound Boxing Report website. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Haney and Linares. We will do a recap of Chantelle Cameron and her first title defense against Melissa Hernandez. We will also recap Oubaali and Donaire and Matias and Jukembayev. And we will do a preview of a lot of boxing that's happening. Well, some boxing is happening on the weekend of the 5th and 6th. Daniel Dubois fighting Dima. Not going to talk the full fight probably that's going to happen on the 6th in Miami, but I will talk for sure Jean Pascal and Badu Jack. Jared Hurd is going to make his return to the ring on that card as well. Again, I want to thank Olaf. I want to thank Sean Fitzgerald. I want to thank both for joining us earlier on in the show. Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News and the Falcon Valley Group. Daniel from the Inscriber for Boxing News. I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 327 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. See you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night. And last but certainly not least, the Let's Build Together Challenge. It is coming. It is coming. And I'm challenging you right now, Daniel. 10 rounds. I want to see you on it. Either the 2-week trial or maybe invest in the whole thing. But I want to see you at least give a 2-week trial basis of the 10 rounds workout. That's coming. That's just say that's coming. So yeah, let's next series of Let's Build Together group challenges as that's coming. For anyone who's interested, just hit me up, Pound for Pound Box Report email, or check out the online coaching page on the site. So again, episode 327 in the books. I'm your host, Michael. See you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.